anybody who's suffering from mental, physical, or any unfortunate situation that we know of. Please remember them if you can. That's just a suggestion. The moment of silence is starting. Thank you, Jai Baba. Jai Baba. I'd like to welcome everyone and thank for all of us that showed up here, and thank for Romney again to accept our invitation. Because we have some wonderful new faces and the gentleman here, I thought if Romney is okay with you and everybody else, for us to go around and introduce ourselves, or maybe you can say, just your name and how long you know of the center or Meher Baba, so we get to know you. I want to acknowledge your participation today. Thank you for coming. My name is Mahu. I serve as a president, finance director, and bookstore walla here. So I'm a fortunate slave. Anyway, your name is?
This is my mom. Her name is Zhao De. From China. Zhao. Yeah. From China. And my name is Tian. I live here in Los Angeles for about 3 years. So now I'm studying and working in East Los Angeles College. I just study English, so I'm still not good a little bit. So I'm very glad to come here because this gentleman, he has been in Indian center before, and he knows Baba, and they all just come from China, and he introduced me about Baba, and he said that he really want to come here because he knows Baba has a center in South California. So I check online, on internet. I said, okay, amazing, because we are all Buddhists. We're all interested about the spiritual journey. So I think we better to come here to know more about Baba.
So he's been to MEHERABODE?
Yeah, the Indian center.
What's the name? MEHERABODE. We met her.
Yes. And what is his name?
Your name
is Xie.
X-I-E?
Yes. And this lady's name is Huang.
Like Guam.
Okay.
First time to come to America.
Welcome. Thank you for coming. And behind you is...
Oh, my name is Eric. I found Baba, or vice versa, around 1975 or 76. And I live in San Fernando Valley. And
may I say that you recently visited China?
oh,
yeah.
Yes, I spent over 2 months in Wuhan.
Oh,
China.
Yeah, beautiful.
So can you speak a little Chinese?
Which is also her name.
Very nice. Thank you.
And I'm Brent.
Hi, Brian.
Okay.
I go from the university.
I'm David, and I'm lately doing some work preparing the email circulars for the center here and things like that. Very good.
David is our communication director who's doing publications and announcements and so on.
No wire
And
traps.
Brent is the archive, yes. You please.
My name is Ladislao, and we're coming from Wilmar, Temecula area.
Temecula?
Yes, I'm from Mexico originally.
Okay.
Yeah.
First time here?
No.
Yeah, he's been here. Yeah, he participated in Godspeed with us and many more, yes.
Are you with Baba?
I'm Patty.
Yes, he is. Hari Qasemi, yes.
Yes, Iranian, and I've been know Baba since 2008 from India,
Yes.
and I'm very honored for that.
Thank you for being here. She lives in Orange County
I am
too.
Mary. I am Mary.
Mehri, yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Friend of Paris.
Yes.
And first one I coming.
Yes.
And it's very beautiful.
Beautiful. Thank you
Very
for coming.
beautiful.
Yes. You also live in Orange County.
Yes.
Yes. We met at Memorial last Sunday. Yes. We met
And
yesterday.
before my born in Shiraz.
Oh, so same here. We both are Shirazi. Okay. Very good. And Fred?
Hi, I'm Fred. I found out about Bob in 1967. And I've been to India 18 times.
Beautiful.
That's Gigi.
And I'm Gigi, I'm married to Fred.
That's right.
Don't think it's any more than that.
Very nice. Very nice. And?
I'm Kent. I got to serve on the board with Romney a little bit in 08, 09.
And Hanson,
Yeah,
Rogers.
welcome.
And Kent works as our fixed asset facility
always,
director for
always.
many years.
You see any lights
Glad to
on?
have you. Thank you. And
Hi, I'm Margaret.
Yes.
Hi, Romney.
Hi, Margaret. The young one. You're
Margaret, yes, and so Selma, go ahead, please. Want to start? You can come here. You want to come here, my dear?
He likes the regular seat.
You like a regular one?
You want to? You can sit, please. Have a seat.
You want cushions?
I just moved because of you. How you doing?
I'm a little worried. Am I black? You don't like to be
This is not
I think it's rich.
Very nice. Very sweet. Okay, so let's just continue on. Thank you, everybody. Just continuing on, and Selma, please. So for people who just arrived, we're going around the circle introducing ourselves.
Don't skip Margaret.
Margaret just did. You missed.
I missed her.
Yeah, he just did. Yes, Selma, please.
I did.
Who doesn't know Margaret Magnus?
Yeah, a lot of people.
She, MEHERABODE, publication, many years of knowing Baba, married to Sam. Meyran will get to Sam. Yes, Selma?
Hi, I'm Selma Al-Faki. I've been involved in this since I was a kid.
Really?
Of course.
Where'd you
Where are
go?
you from? How long? Washington, D.C.
Really?
Yeah.
What years were you there?
Yeah, Southern California.
Oh, thank you. What years was I in Washington, D.C.? Let's see. 81 to 94.
How did we miss each other? I was there.
He
Yes,
was there
and
for-
you're the niece to Khaled Al-Faqih,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Linda
Yeah.
Zavala.
We've had, yes.
Linda Zavala.
Yeah.
Been with Bob since 1978,
Yes.
and I've done lots of things around here. Been coming all these years.
Of course. And now serves as the chair of decoration committee. Thank you, Linda.
And Dinah, the only other person in the room who actually met Bob with me.
Well, I found out he was God in 1952 when I was just 12, and then I met him the same year. Romney met him, only in different places. I met him when Baba came to Sydney. And Romney, you met him
In LA.
in LA. Aha, right.
So you're good?
Very nice.
What is the question going?
You
Who are you?
What are you doing here?
You went to the last darshan with Mommy Joyce, right?
Yes.
Yes, that's right. I find out about Baba in 62,
62.
1962.
We're in, listen, wait.
No, yeah.
62.
I came to Los Angeles and met Phyllis in 62.
You did.
Started working. She was a child.
And your name is, so for people to know?
Jurgis Sofkus.
And is that your
Jurgis
sculpture? That's your
He's a
sculpture.
very good painter and a sculptist. One of a kind artist in Baba. Yes, and?
Brother Richard.
I am Richard Sturmer. I met Baba in 1961 when I was born to our mother.
Yeah. Very nice. And Richard has served as the
No, I'm kidding.
as a servant. He has worked
I've done
on
my
the board
time.
of directors for many years, and he's a past president.
You got a
Yes.
license.
Glad to see you here today. Thank you.
Who's
And
this?
Romney, I'll introduce
that's it.
him.
Oh, we
Yeah, and then Samir.
Minu.
Minu's back there lurking.
Yeah, Minu, I was gonna get to Minu, but yeah, go ahead, Minu. No, go ahead, please, we gotta continue on. Come on, Minu.
My name is Minu. I'm a Parsi Zoroastrian from India. I've been in the United States for 56 years and heard of MEHERABODE only 4 years ago through Kent Hansen.
Beautiful.
Good job, Ken.
Yeah.
I have no explanation as to why I didn't hear about MEHERABODE before.
Or you want to hear.
It's always
Yeah.
hard.
I just
Minu is a tireless worker. He works as a program meeting director. He comes every Sunday at 9 a.m. set up and so forth. We're grateful. Yeah.
Sam Urban. Heard about Baba in 1968, went to the Great Darshan in 69, with the stragglers from California in June.
There was a strike.
Oh, I said there was a second wave.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Phyllis
History and
Frederick was in that group,
yes.
and Clive Adams, and
Oh, was that right?
quite a number of
There
other
were
people.
two groups.
Tim Barnhart and Rubens and
Jurgis and Mommy were in early on.
The further
Yeah,
there was a
second group.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. We had
Yeah.
program with him.
I missed that.
They were in the legitimate California group, but we were in the other legitimate. But anyway, and currently president of the board at Meyran.
Very nice. Very nice. Of course. And
Mr. Madison,
and then
I
heard
heard about Baba in Berkeley in 1967, but didn't know who he was or anything. Just thought he was one of the gurus on the scene. And I believe he was the avatar by, say, 1969. And let's see, Rick Chapman was the person I found out about Baba.
I didn't know that. Very nice. Very nice. Great. So I hope we haven't forget about anybody.
What about you?
I already
She did.
said
She
it.
started.
Yeah.
She did.
Yeah. I
You
started with me, and most everybody knows me. If you don't know me,
How did you hear about Baba? How did you come to Baba? You didn't say that, did you?
no, I came to Baba 20 years ago after a lot of soul searching. I was on hold for a long time, but that was my path. And ever since then, I'm fully in his net. He's my life. So now we want to turn our attention to our guest today. We have started this series of How I Met Meher Baba and Master. And we started since last year. It was once every quarter, I think, or once a month, I forgot. Anyway, so now I'm very happy that we're continuing this theme with Romney, who I'm grateful that he accepted to be with us. In addition, we have started a series of How I Met My Master in our online publication now, which is called MEHERABODE Gazette, that comes every quarter. In fact, the next one is due to go out, hopefully, David, end of February, beginning of March, and in that we will continue to have this column of How I Met My Master. I won't say whose the story would that be, it's a surprise. So without a further ado, introducing Romney, he could talk all about himself, his family, and Baba. Romney knows Baba ever since he's born. I know Mother Joyce very well because when I came to Baba, Mother Joyce and Adele were there. They were like my mother, spiritual mother. And go on. And he now lives in Palm Spring. Yeah. Thank you for being here. Can I have a...
Thank you, Mommy. I've heard that, by the way, I'm happy to be here, and it's been a long time. I knew one day I would be sitting in this chair telling my story, but it's been a long time, and went through some ups and downs, and now with Adele passing, that the older ones are leaving, so I guess what could I say when you asked me to share my story? You first published it just to get some technical things out of the way, how I met my master. I've seen that everywhere, and I've never responded to it because I feel that my case is unique, because I actually did meet him in the physical body.
Yes.
And so when you first published, Ron is going to say how he met Baba. I said that, well, you should say actually physically met him. And then another guy on Facebook, Ron Festine, who has a site, said, well, I understood it to mean that you actually met him in the body. So I thought, oh, good, Ron, I'm glad that you did. And then just in conclusion with this housekeeping aspect, Rick Chapman has one, like the best book, Baba book that I've really ever read, and he calls his book Meeting God in Human Form. And Mommy Joyce always spoke very highly of Rick, and even thought he was maybe some kind of a charge man. I don't know. But she did send me to speak to him in 1971 when I was wondering what to do with my life. She said, well, go talk to Rick. And he introduced me to, have you ever had a cappuccino? I said, no, we'll try it. So
how old were you then?
I was 21, and I had made some money in college in a painting business, and my plan was to just go around the world. And Rick, he said, I'll never forget that, he said, well, I'd rather stay here and watch the decline of Western civilization. So what could I say? Then I went back to Mom, and after a hitchhiking trip to the Hopi Indian Reservation in Arizona, and I said, well, Mom, what would you like me to do with my life? And she said, I'd like you to go to New York and study ballet with Margaret Krask. And Margaret Krask was Mayor Baba's favorite Western disciple, the only one. Could I have a second mango? And she got the second mango. Anyway, she was Baba's link with America. She, after spending 7 years in India during World War II with Baba, he told her to go to New York and teach dance. And, she had nothing. She was, after living for 7 years without even brushing her teeth, without permission, all of a sudden, she was in New York, and she had some old contacts. Anthony Tudor, who got her a job at teaching at the American Ballet Theater, being a ballet teacher, American Ballet Theater and or the Met. And then I remember in her book, she says, it just got, asking, right, cabling Baba, should I do this, that, and the other, or should I just go where fate leads me, you being fate. And Baba cable back, go where fate leads you. So I did go and study with her, and I did have some good contact with her, and she was very helpful to me, and I'm so grateful to Mommy for having put me together with that woman, because it's like she was incredible. I remember in everybody has these pictures of young Baba, and that's the one in high school, because like when Jurgis, 62, the 50s and the 60s, to follow an Eastern master was like way out there. It was like totally, unconventional. And then when in the late 60s, when like Esther was into the hippies and the gurus, they started infiltrating with the Beatles and then this picture became evidence. And I had that picture on my wall in high school, and I felt like, oh, now I'm really in with it, and I'm with what's going on. I really felt that we were in sync with the modern, what was happening in the USA at that time with the long hair and the hippie type guru. Anyway, this is a picture David published the one that David published in the Gazette. Showed Baba in a blue coat. That was in Myrtle Beach, and David said that's the only one I could find. That was right before Baba came to LA. This was actually a series of photos published in the Metro section of the LA Times.
Oh, yes.
So I presume this is the Hollywood Roosevelt.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
And I love it because, I mean, LA was a place where, you know, with the movie industry, I mean, Baba could, you know, in the 50s, even so, walking like this was not common at all. To walk in Indian dress, but in Hollywood, you could, and he had been here before in the 30s. He had established contacts. But anyway, my story starts. Let me go back and let me, if I could just pass this around. Well, this, you know, Meyra tells a story in her book, Meyra, Baba's the divine counterpart of the avatar. He always has, the God man always has, where as a child she was taken to this island in the middle of a lake in India where they had in the mosque a box within a box within another box, and in that box was a hair of the Prophet Muhammad.
Yes.
And so I'm sure that Meyra produced these envelopes. I got this from our brother Ken, who thankfully he entrusted it to me. This is some of Baba's hair. For anybody who would like to see it, pass it around, and we have a physical contact with the avatar.
Thank you very much for
Yeah.
doing this. Yes, thank you.
So, my story starts, I guess, has to start with Mommy Joyce. And she was born in Ogden, Utah, to a Mormon family. And at age 13, she excommunicated herself from the Mormon church. She told me that she was playing piano and she saw a vision of a man in a white sadra. She didn't call it a sadra, a man in a long white robe standing above her piano. Have you ever heard this, Jeremy? No. And then, okay, so she had that vision, right? And then that was in 1933. Then she went to, they moved to Europe for 3 years in Vienna, and then Mommy eloped with a Hungarian and was kind of caught in the beginning of World War II when Hitler took the Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia and closed the border. And so she was there with this, her husband, Latsi, and she told me how she, you know, that total destruction, now I've come to understand it as God's glorification, that was World War II. To her, sensitive as she was, she couldn't, it was just like everywhere was death, destruction, cruelty, and she saw in a, must have been around Christmas time, in a shop window a sign that said, do you know this? Said, peace on earth, goodwill towards men. And she said, there must, somebody somewhere must be of the light. It can't all be darkness if someone is thinking like that. Peace on earth, goodwill towards men. Okay, so then she came back to the U.S., divorced Latsi, and then she met my dad. It was he was going to LA City College, and he met my mom's younger sister, Kristen. She was about 10 years younger, 9 years younger than Mom, and he asked her out, and she said, no, but I have a sister you might like. So Aunt Kristen hooked Mommy up with Daddy Larry. And they got married, and she said she had several offers because she was artistic. She was studying dance and music, and she had an offer to just live with a man, but he wasn't offering marriage. And she told me that she was ready to have a child. She was going to be 29 when I was born. And she told me she prepared herself for 7 years to have a child. And so before I was born, Mommy and Daddy Larry, they discovered a man named Malcolm Schloss, who was one of the first male American Baba lovers to greet Baba when he came in 1931. He had a poetry bookshop, esoteric bookshop in New York called the North Node, and he was a poet, and he had exchanged one of his books with Meredith Starr in England, and then that's how Baba came in through Meredith, because Meredith in England was the first contact that Rustam, Adi's brother, had discovered when Baba sent Rustam to England to recruit English boys to come back for the Prem Ashram. And then Meredith was discovered, and that's where Baba went in Devonshire. But so Malcolm was there in the beginning when Baba first came in New York, and a lot of his stories chronicled in Gene Avatar's book, Avatar. Gene Adriel, I'm sorry. Did I say Gene Adriel? Gene Adriel. So then Malcolm had this, twice a month, he had poetry. And twice a month, it was MEHERABODE meetings. It were Saturday night meetings. And I believe his place was up in Hollywood, up off of Beechwood. And it was on Sherman. Is it? Yeah, up there. Oh, good. Where Mom actually lived the last 40 years of her life, and where Richard was raised on Cherimoya. So initially, Daddy and Mommy went for the poetry. But what happened was Malcolm had a big picture in his house. I liken it to the one that maybe Meredith had at Devonshire, when Margaret Grass said she walked in the door and saw that picture of Baba, and she just, all her manners flew out the window, she just stared. Well, something like that happened to Mommy Joyce. When she saw that photo, or whatever it was, a picture, it was probably a photo of Baba, she just was awestruck, and she was like stunned, because evidently this was connected up with that vision that she had at age 13. This was the one. And she told me that Malcolm and his then wife Mona, they had seen this happen before, this reaction to Baba on first, and they knew enough just to walk out and leave her there. So then the program started that they would go for the MEHERABODE meetings as well as the poetry. And then I was conceived in 1949, and they were still going, and I was born in April of 1950, and I was taken to the meetings at Malcolm's house, and I'm told that I never cried. You know, I guess babies they do. I mean, you can't blame them if they cry, but I didn't. You know, and I'm glad I didn't. That was probably a blissful vibe, right? To be there, and so that was the life of our family as I understand it. And Malcolm was my dad liked Malcolm. He liked him. Malcolm had a way with you know, maybe I don't know if he was as much a man's man as Padre Fred, but he was a man's man. Malcolm Schloss. So my dad was into physical culture, bodybuilding. He had Malcolm, and he had this respect for Malcolm. Of course, Malcolm was quite a bit older. He was born in 1907, I think, so he was about 10 years older than Dad. And so then Dinah mentioned 52. Well, we knew that Baba was coming to the States in '52. And this is where, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I have to, why not? She's gone now anyway. But Phyllis told, because Mom, the thing was to go to Myrtle Beach. I mean, Lud did it. He flew from San Francisco to Myrtle Beach, even though Baba was going to come to Frisco, right? If you read Darwin Shaw's early story, he read that Baba was coming in '31, and he realized, he said, I gotta go. This is the one. But he said, well, no, Memorial Day is coming up, then I'll have 3 days. So I'll hold off a few days. So he did that to his regret, because then when he got to Harmon on Croton, Bob had finished his work and gone to California. He missed him. So like I hear Darwin say, the thing to do is when you feel, just go, and that's why when Baba came back in '34 and Norina gave Darwin and Jean their appointments, and then afterwards came a telegram, oh, your appointment's been canceled. He ignored that. He went into New York City anyway. And Norina, what are you doing here? We can't, didn't you? Oh, no, we don't want to enter. We're just sitting here. But he wasn't going to take a chance to miss. So, but anyway, back to my story, Phyllis told Mommy, you've got a young child. I was 2, right? Baba's coming to California. Why go to Myrtle Beach? It made sense. It seemed logical. Right? It didn't make sense to Lud, but it made sense to Mommy, I guess. So she didn't go. And we know what happened. Baba never made it to California. He had that tragic accident quote, accident in Oklahoma. So when '56 rolls around, Mommy Joyce, she's on fire like Darwin. She's not taking any chances. She's been burned once, not just shame on her, not twice shame on me. So I remember we were living on Sawtell in West LA, and I remember standing up in my, this couldn't have been '52, it had to be '56, but why was I in a crib type bed? I don't know, but I was standing up in where I slept, and there were some bars around it. Is that possible for a 6-year-old to sleep? It's not. Well, maybe that was '52, but so she said to me, God is coming to see us. And when I think about that, not to say that to an adult, it would be like mind-blowing. My God, what are we doing here? Let's get ready. But to me, that seemed, in the environment in which I was raised with Mommy Joyce, it just seemed so normal, so natural that God would come to see us, that we were that worthy, that we were that deserving. And I was, just to give you an example of my, my state of mind, I have to say sensitivity. I loved lamb chops, and then one day and she'd like to make them for me, one day I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the lamb chop she's telling me, and I said, do they have to kill the lamb to get the lamb chop, Mommy? And she said, yes, and I started crying. They have to, because the picture I have of Baba from that time, my child, is Baba holding what I thought was a lamb, but actually it's like a goat, I realized. But it looks kind of like a lamb. So I couldn't eat that anymore. And then she so wise, she told me, she said, Romney, the little lamb is pleased to give its life for you to make you strong. So I could eat it. But that's the type of relationship we had. It was like we were just like, it was unbelievable. It was like we were just like one. I mean, such love, from unconditional love from a mother, unbelievable. You didn't get that, because by that time it was but those years that we had together, just the two of us. And anyway, okay, so God is coming to see us. So perfectly normal that God should come to see us. And that's why sometimes I say, how did how did you come to Baba? And I said, I didn't come to Baba, Baba came to me. Because that, in a way, that's how it was. And so then, I guess this part is in Lord Mayor. It was at 5:30 in the morning. Baba's plane touched down in LA. They didn't call it LAX at the time, Los Angeles Airport. And it was like drizzling. And I think, wow, and how that's not normal for Los Angeles to get a little rain. But in India, it's considered a good omen. A little rain on
What month was that? What time of
July.
year? July. Yeah. Rain in July.
Yeah, like Khorshid Adi Dubash's wife. I want a little rain on my wedding day. Good blessings. But so it was drizzling, and we were there at the airport, and Baba got off the plane, and Mommy told me that he got off the plane with his hand around Dante Cardella's, not like this, like romance, which...
Who's Dante?
Huh?
Who's Dante?
Dante Cardella.
Who's that? I never heard of him.
You haven't heard of him? He had a group here in LA. He was kind of like a mini guru type, and Baba did go. He asked Baba to come to his house on Detroit. Brett, you've been to that house.
Yeah.
Can you tell us who Dante was?
My understanding is that he had a meditation group there.
More than that.
Yeah, but
and a following.
I think that particular night that Baba went there, they were doing a talk on meditation.
Yes, he asked if Baba would come and meditate with his group when he went with Dante. But Dante was a guy who he thought the apocalypse was coming, and you had to stash food and guns up in the mountains so you'd be ready and prepared. This type of thing, and Richard is connected with this story because. And then there were I got from Richard's father, my stepdad. He had two dwarfs, one on each side, Mofu and Do-Tu, would sit on one on each side of him. So he had this kind of like you got to have some, if you're not Baba, you got to have some wrinkle.
Some kind of shtick.
Some shtick, Mofu and Do-Tu.
There was a tape, the bookstore used to have it, of Baba at Dante's house. Audio tape. Of course, Baba's silent, so what you hear is Erich.
No, but
giving instructions to Dante and so on from Baba.
But you hear Baba's fingers snap.
Yeah,
you hear that.
You hear Baba, yeah, but it's not his voice.
No, of course not. But you hear, and then Don's. And I gave that. I was honored to be able to give that to Dara, Baba's nephew, who is blind but in perfect hearing. I said, look, this is because I could put that on, and that's the closest thing. That I know of being in Baba's, that puts me in Baba's presence. Because I can hear Baba and how Baba's conducting, and then Dante at the end says, now you can come and give a flower to Baba, and then the little boy comes up and gives him a chrysanthemum, and okay, so because Baba gets off the plane with his arm around Dante, that comes in later. Dante, so then we go back, and Baba was, Mahu left, but we went to the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, where Baba he had rooms there for 3 days, July 31st, the 1st, and the 2nd. On the 3rd, he left for San Francisco. On the 2nd, he went to Ojai, but he came back to LA to sleep. He told Agnes, I can't sleep. I would like to spend the night, but he had already had reservations in LA. And we didn't go to Ojai. I don't know why, but we were probably waiting, holding down the fort in Hollywood. So there were these 3 days in Hollywood, 2.5, but even though he was in Ojai, we still felt he was in LA too. Which now Mahu has started this thing a few years ago. We used to go to Pilgrim Pines for our sahabas, right? And then she started with the urban sahabas, and I never connected that with, but that's what it was for me and Mommy Joyce and the LA residents. It was an urban sahabas because we would go home at night, sleep in our house, and come back to the Hollywood Roosevelt during the morning and hang out during the day. And and then go home at night. This was an urban Sahara, so Baba did he invented the urban Saharas, as far as I'm concerned. So the Hollywood Roosevelt, very good choice, beautiful hotel. It's amazing how it's still vibrant and right in the center of Hollywood, right next to the Academy Awards, and it's sanctified. And I've been back there a couple of times. But my experience was there was a lot of waiting time, and the lobby, I would drew a horse for Baba, waiting in the lobby, and we had our interview times, where we would go upstairs and go into Baba's presence. And one time I went in with Mommy, hand in hand. We went into Baba's room, and he only had 4 Mandali with him. There were Erich, Dr. Nilu, Meherji, and Adi, the 4 of them. And so I went in with Mommy, and then I went in once by myself into Baba's presence. And then Baba gave me...
Are you going to tell us more about that?
I was 6 years old, and that's deep. That's deep into the subconscious. Whatever is there, it's there, but it's deep. And it will probably take incarnations for it to come out. Lifetimes.
Did it give you a hug? Did it give you a kiss?
That comes later. Okay. So Baba got off the plane, as I remember, wearing that pink coat, his favorite color, the pink coat. And I remember him in that coat, although in Ojai he's in the blue coat. So then after the interviews and on the video that we have of Mommy, that we were going to bring a video, she's describing, along with Dinah's mom, how it was to embrace Baba. And I wanted you guys to see that, because she gives an adult's description of what it was. And for her, it was otherworldly. She says, how was it to embrace Baba? She said, he was non-corporeal. As if you're holding, not a ghost, but not non-corporeal. Corporeal means body, with no body, almost like universal body. He was, not that body. Maybe that's what he was conveying to her, as Charles Haynes likes to say. He never saw Baba as that body. He said, how did you feel when Baba dropped the body? He said, I never saw him as that body. He was always more than that. So then, these times of just hanging out in the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, and it was a blissful time. And then when Baba was ready to come out of his room, and we all knew the day was over, the interviews were all done, so we all came upstairs and lined the corridor for Baba to come out. And in this, Mommy Joyce describes it, I don't know if that's the one, but Baba came out and made a beeline for her. She felt something in her heart.
No, shall I tell?
Yeah.
Shall I narrate what she said?
Please.
She tells in this video, which I forgot to bring, apologies. She said she was waiting with some friends. This was after their initial meeting that she told about, but she said she brought some friends, and that they'd come late, something like that. But they were waiting outside the room, and then the decision was that Baba was finished, maybe a little early, something like that. And she saw the door open and Baba come out, and she said her heart skipped. She said, oh no, my friends aren't going to get to meet Baba now. And she said, at that moment, at that very moment, Baba was pointing in a different direction, and she said, the moment she had that skip in her heart, he turned directly towards her and walked straight up to her, and then asked her to introduce her friends. And she said, at that moment I knew he was God.
One of the moments, I'm sure she knew.
Well, that's what I'm repeating what she narrated. That would be what she said.
Well, I remember, and this, I told her that Baba kissed me on the forehead. And I remember it that we were all lining we're all lining the corridor of the hallway. And Baba's coming out, and the adults, hold their place. They don't run out. But at 6 years old, you don't, there's no boundaries. You make the beeline. You go for it. And I went up to Baba, and that's where Baba kissed me, and pushed me. So, in doubting that, sometime, in my twisted journey, which took me through long struggles of actually disobeying Baba and actually losing a hold of the Dhamma and what that felt like, and not being able to come back and be reborn. I questioned Margaret Kraska about that being kissed, and she said, I don't think he did that to two people. I always have that. And the other thing she said to me, Ms. Krask, was, I said something about, there's some thing going on in the studio, talking, or this or that, and this one says that, and she said, I don't think you could say a bad thing about anybody.
To you?
Yeah, that was nice. And then last time I saw Meyran in India, I was also fishing, trying to get what I could out of these people, right? And I said, well, I only met Baba, it was just an instant, you were with him at age 14 all those years, what did I have? And she said, Baba can do in an instant what he needs to do with you. She gave me the feeling that the time that you were with him is not important. If he chooses to do something, if he chooses to work on you, it's not. He can do that. He doesn't need years and years. So that's from my. Now about what happened afterwards. Any more questions about actually meeting Baba, or because then I'm going to go on to a little bit afterwards and what happened.
So
yes,
what I found that was interesting to learn was that it was, as you mentioned, the Sahabas, that you were hanging out, and that there were a couple different instances in which you were in Baba's presence.
Yeah.
Over this period of 2.5 days.
Personal presence.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't just that one.
The airport, and then it was in the hallway, and then two times in the
2 times in the room. Because I guess I'm drawing that from Joyce's mother in her talk, because she said, "Oh yeah, we spent time with
several." You said.
Yeah. She said on the tape. So I thought that was interesting because it wasn't just the one. It was that there were other opportunities, but I guess you're not clear on that.
No, I'm clear there were at least 2. Yeah. Maybe Dinah?
I just wanted to, because I forgot, which of the Mandali told you that he could do like that?
Meyran.
It was Meyran.
Yeah.
Because he meddled in my life for 30 years before he reeled me in. But 30 years he kept interfering.
Well,
Baba did.
Yeah.
Interfering how?
Oh, that's a 2 hours.
Dangling.
You're talking about your journey. Like Romney mentioned his circuitous route. You're talking about your circuitous route.
You completely ignore him, but
right.
Like I was arrested for shoplifting, and the officer's name was Sergeant Barber. Jeez, I get the message. Right, I won't do that again. But again, I've forgotten it. You said it was Anabaz who told you that?
No, it was Meyran.
Oh, Meyran, right. Yeah, she was very down to earth, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, righto. I was just curious that, because obviously when he embraced me, he knew what he was going to do with me. Yeah. He just made me wait 30 years before he decided to.
And me too, Donna. I mean, from age 6 until actually when I got back here in '85, and even then, until it was another 5 years until actually I I could feel like I had hold of the Dhamma as a youngster, but then following the circuitous routes and basically being disobedient, I lost it, but then I got it back.
Do you know the term Dhamma? This is the hem of his robe. He says, Baba says, just hold on. Don't worry about anything else. He says, the simplest is just hold on to my garment, like a child holding on to the hem of its mother in a marketplace. Just hold on.
So then what happened was within 14 months of meeting Baba, all of a sudden I'm sent back. Baba had come from Myrtle Beach to DC, and then DC to LA. That's the way Adele used to go to Myrtle Beach, LA to DC, and then down to... Okay, so that was Baba's route. I retraced that at 7 years old by myself with a sign around my neck with my name, child unaccompanied minor, to Washington, DC, where I was raised in boarding schools with my grandmother and my uncle, who were not Baba lovers. And within 14 months, we were just broken, and I didn't see Mommy for 5 years. All that time, 5 years from age 7 to 12. And yet, I never felt that she loved me any less.
That's good.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, we would talk on the phone, and I could just feel that love. And then it was interesting because when I first got there, and I'm sitting in Gammy, we called her Gammy, grandmother's apartment in Arlington, Virginia, River House, and she'd made me this oatmeal, and it was cold and rainy, not like beautiful sunny Southern California. And she said to me, "Yeah, you don't believe all that Baba stuff, do you, Ron?"
And you were what?
7.
Oh, man.
Right?
Well, but to give it context, again, you have to understand, at that time, to have an Eastern guru, to be involved in anything like that, they basically, mother's family said she was crazy. They said she'd gone off the deep end.
Off the deep end.
My father used to call us barbarians.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, you guys went to the barbarian meeting?
Barbarians. That's cute. So anyway, what can I say? I mean, basically, you just stuff it, right? You don't believe all that Baba stuff, do you? But that would involve recanting my mother's love. But, I wouldn't.
So what did you say?
I just stuffed it. Didn't say anything. But Gammy, she was very astute. She had studied psychology, and she was responsible with Adler's, one of Freud's contemporaries. She got his successor out of Vienna, and she was a student of psychology, and she had seen Hitler drive into Vienna, and she knew all. She had Baba's number. She said, "Baba is the supreme egotist." But she
we heard that before.
Yeah, well, but he says that. He had the divine unlimited ego. You read it in God Speak, but the way she said it, that was because the ego is a no-no in psychology. It's the worst.
You sure she didn't mean Hitler?
Well, it was Germans, a nation of sheep, she said. But, okay, so then for 5 years, I didn't see her. Okay, so now what precipitated me being sent away was Gammy, telling my mommy, blah, 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 and on top of this, you're a bad mother to Ron. So finally she had met this Richard's father, who was a Dante disciple, and he had come to our apartment on Sawtell, knocked on the door, introduced himself. He said, "Hello, my name is Kenneth Sturmer. Meher Baba has sent me." And I have to go back a little bit because my dad I told you, he really cottoned to Malcolm, and he was going to the meetings, and Mommy even got him to meet Baba when they're already divorced. And I questioned my dad. I said, because he rejects because he loved Mommy, but there was some jealousy. I think even jealous against Baba because she loved Baba more than him. And I said, "Well, Dad, if you don't love Baba," and every time I would, he was into meditation and he had followed Yogananda in the beginning. But, he was like going to the Baba groups. He cottoned to Malcolm, and he said to me, 54, when Malcolm went to India for the 3 incredible weeks, the 20 Western men were invited for 3 incredible weeks to India, and Malcolm was one of them, that Daddy Larry was waiting for Malcolm to come back and tell us the story. We were the original LA group, and Malcolm was our leader. And we were waiting, Dad, for Malcolm to return from India with the goods. Tell us what, tell us the real deal. And as we know, Malcolm never made it back. This is why Mommy Joyce always said, when you go to India, come right back. Because that was Baba's standing order. Malcolm tarried. He stopped off in New York to see some old friends, and he died on the John in New York and never made it back. That's what Phyllis Adams.
Yeah, interject a line, a couplet from one of Malcolm's poems, because that's a direct connection. That's a direct connection for us, as Romney mentioned, and Malcolm had authored any number of books, maybe 8 of them, 8 volumes of poetry. Wonderful, wonderful work. And I don't know if we still have some of the stories.
Ways to attain the supreme reality.
It's the most incredible.
So one couple that comes into my mind, which I keep with me, is from, I think it's his book, Songs to Celebrate the Sun. And the couplet is, it's a couplet. Anyway, the line is, the whole of life is the expression of a joy so great that it cannot contain itself. The whole of life is the expression of a joy so great that it cannot contain itself.
And when I see pictures of Malcolm, Richard, you look so much like him.
Like Malcolm?
Yes, like Malcolm. Facially, he looks just like him.
Who's your daddy, Richard?
So Kenneth Sturmer comes and knocks on our door because apparently this may or may not be true. I mean, it doesn't matter. If you're going to say Mayor Baba sent you, that's good. Whether Dante told him to say that to get to Joyce or not.
Well, you know the story. Do you want to? Shall I add this? Shall I add to the drama, to the soap opera? So apparently, Dante, Mother Joyce told me this, that he had made advances to her, and there had been some tete-a-tete, and she had rebuffed him, and he hadn't been too pleased about that, and she had said later on, when it turned out that my father was having chronic mental illness, was just not in good shape, that she thought that was maybe Dante's way of getting back her. And she said, I'm just telling you what Mother said. I'm not
But you're selling your father short, because my mother was not a fool. She saw this man standing in her doorway, and she's in Baba's name. And by that time, because when Malcolm didn't come back, then my dad drifted away. That was his son. That was his ticket out of the Baba. Then he just started, and then the divorce finalized. And so Mom is left alone, basically, with just me raising a child on her own. Daddy Larry had abandoned her, right, and Baba, because Malcolm didn't come back to give the story. Well, it's all in Baba's hands anyway. It wasn't meant to be. But this Kenneth Sturmer knocks on the door. You've met Kenneth.
Of course.
And he was he had an incredible singing voice. I can still hear him singing in the canyons, love and marriage, it goes together like, it was charming. And here he is, she said, Mayor Baba sent me. She said, this is my knight in shining armor, is what she said. This is, Baba
But have you been going to Malcolm's classes? You're Richard's father?
No.
How did you come to say that?
Because again, Joyce said that Dante put him up to it.
No, but Dante was interested. I don't know how Dante got a hold of Baba, but Dante was, he was connected somehow. And Kenneth was in Dante's group.
Oh.
This all happened after Malcolm died in 54.
So Malcolm died 54?
Yeah, right after being in India. It wasn't
incredible weeks.
3 days after
on the way back. instead of coming directly back, he stopped off in New York, which is nuts. He had a lot of friends there and everything, but he shouldn't have stopped.
You know, Romney, when the news went to India that Malcolm had passed away, as I recall, Meher Baba sent a message, I think a telegram, I think to John Bass in New York, but saying, please send a message to, and I think he described it as the leader of the LA group, and I think he meant Dante at that point.
Really?
I think so, but I wasn't sure if that's what he meant.
But maybe.
Yeah, but otherwise I don't know who he was referring to.
Yeah.
When was Jean Adriel into this whole?
Well, that's in the 30s, but then they got divorced, Malcolm. It was in the 30s.
Yeah, okay, so this is Malcolm after Jean Adriel.
Yeah, Malcolm with Mona.
Oh,
Second
yeah.
wife,
Yes, okay.
Or he might have said Malcolm, something about Malcolm's group, but it was like someone in charge of Malcolm's group.
Well, I don't know who that would have been in the early 50s other than Malcolm, but yeah, well, so there was an attempt to try to, but that didn't get to my dad somehow. What was the message? That
Well,
don't despair.
No, I don't remember exactly what the message was. Now we'd have to check the literature. It's in Lord Meher, I think. Yeah.
So where was Jean living? Was she living in LA when they
Jean
divorced?
I don't know anything about her afterwards. I've heard she was here in LA. She had left.
They used to live here.
Yeah.
They used to live and then they went to India to meet Baba and so forth. And there was a time where they left Baba.
No, he never left.
Actually, Jean, I heard both, but must be Jean
She
Adriel.
never left. She followed Kirpal Singh.
Who?
He never left.
He never left.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. What Jean
because she
did.
thought she was Meyran. She thought she was the chosen one. And how could you be that?
That's right.
Right? She was jealous that she couldn't compete with Meyran, and she thought she was the one, right? So
Yeah,
she
that's
drifted
right.
away. She wasn't getting what she got. Anyway, just to
That
go
she
back to
was
the
always
story.
going on. Baba was grinding it between Western and Eastern women. It
So
wasn't
then-
only Jean, it was other women
No, but
too.
Jane took it the hardest because she left. He drove her out. So anyway, here's Kenneth, and so then they get married. I mean, we're driving. It was hellish. That year was hell for me because Kenneth had the guns. Dante, he had the guns. And we're in the car in Monrovia, and he's having to read from the Bible. She says, I'm sick to my stomach, I can't read. You know how some people can't read when the car's moving, you got to concentrate. And he said, read, Joyce, read. He got angry, and he pulled out the .22 and shot into the back of the car. And I'm sticking my head out of the car, screaming for help. General assistance, please help. You know, my mom, this guy.
6 years old.
Yeah, screaming. And maybe that had an effect because the cops came, he was taken to jail, and she married him because you don't have to testify against your husband.
Baseball.
Boy, this is another whole story, huh?
Very interesting.
Well, this was her, Meher Baba, you have to remember, Meher Baba sent me. He came in Meher Baba's name. You can.
Well, there's something called false advertising.
Hey, whatever my master does is
the highest.
And how many years were they married?
Never till death do apart. She never
Like
left.
30 years.
Over from that time on. So this is how Richard got here. You see how Baba works.
Yeah.
Because it was like hell. I would visit my grandparents' house, Dr. Meyran, and then they'd come to get me, and I didn't want to go back because Kenneth, he was a nutcase. He moved us out of our beautiful apartment in Sawtell Boulevard and to a dive in Hollywood. And anything with red, I couldn't wear. A striped t-shirt with red, throw that out. Spanish peanuts with red, get rid of that. And there was some physical abuse, the physical abuse. And she had big bruises on her arms, from her. He would... And she's standing there watching him spank me, and it was like a hell.
Well, you're all amazing. So glad to see you today.
What's the old saying? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Well, your mother, that's another story altogether, how strong your mother was.
I'm back east, and you don't believe all that Baba stuff, do you? Well, I'm better off here, so I'm not going to complain, try to push Baba because I'm out of that hell with Kenneth. And she said later, she said she could take it. She could stand up to cancer, but she didn't know if I could. It was like me too much to put on a kid. So then,
She tried to protect you guys.
huh?
She tried to protect both of you.
No, he wasn't alive then. He didn't come in until 4 years later. See, 3 years later, she has Kenny, the first one. And then a year later, another one, Richard, 13 months later. Thinking that would do it. That would settle him down. Give him a father, give him 2 boys. But you see, in Baba's infinite wisdom, Kenny and Richie, I asked Don Stevens about Ken when we were in St. Francis's tomb. When he said, Ken has been under Baba's thumb, like Dinah said, you and Pete Towns, for many lifetimes. You know, so he had to get these souls here. Baba had to get these souls, and how could he? He had to get Richard and Kenny here, and that's how he did it through Dante. So I was, you know, and so then they came back. Mommy and Kenny came back after my year in Europe in '61, and I saw her then for the first time in 5 years. And then I had the honor, when Baba dropped the body, I was going to Babson College in Massachusetts, and I got the phone call. There was a little Baba group in Boston I was starting to go to, and they called me, I remember in the morning, and they said, Mayor, Baba dropped the body. And the first thing I thought was of Mommy Joyce. I said, this is Harry Carey time. This is, what do they call it when the widow throws her
stuff on the fire in India.
What's it called? Sati. Yeah, she'll kill herself. That was it would have to be. How could she live without Bob? She would kill herself. At the end of her life, she finished. So I called, and then from that point on, our relationship became different, because she was not the person that I thought she was. She was not, you know, I mean, if you were totally, the person that I thought she was would have killed herself, would have committed sati. But, I mean, that's not Baba's way. Baba wouldn't have wanted that. So then what happened was, because I think was it already scheduled, the last darshan? I think it was already scheduled, but I don't know whether she was on board with it yet.
Yeah.
Was she?
She was, yeah.
But she didn't have the money.
I remember we ate terribly when she was away.
Oh, when you're away, but I'm talking about in January.
Yes.
Before.
Yes, the answer is yes.
But
she was planning, and they were, a lot of people canceled.
But she didn't have the money. So how could you do it? And so I was making money in college, and I was working all the angles. I had scholarship, grants, loans, doing my working. You know, I had plenty of money. Daddy Larry was sending me $100 a month. So I said, I'll pay for that. It was $600. I'll
Did you
buy that ticket for you. And she always honored me for that. I have a book that she inscribed from Arnavaz, who was one of her favorite, Mandali. She said, "Thank you for sending me to the last darshan." And because I didn't feel to go, but for her, it meant a lot, and I could do that. And I was really, it was a gift that Baba gave me, that I was able to somehow return what she had given to me by sending her to the last darshan.
I went with her. And I remember one accident with her. The first day when we came in the evening, there was orders not to go anywhere until we get permission. But I didn't hear those orders. And she said, let's go to Baba's house. And we went together.
Oh, to Guru Prasad or?
No, to Baba's house in Pune.
Okay.
And we went there, and it was very nice. We met some lady, I don't know who was there.
Karen, Baba's sister-in-law.
And she showed everything. She showed that room where Baba is head, and then showed the well where Baba, when he was still playing with the cobra.
Yeah, just the two of you.
Yeah, and they said we were afraid to go there, and he was playing with it. And then we went to move there, whatever it was.
That's right, Baba.
You went there?
That's right, Baba.
Even though Eric had told you, wait, because Jal...
Not there, it was somebody else, I don't know who house. And then when we and then when we went in the evening when we walked across the plaza, I took her like this, like so protected and walk together.
Good.
And what happened? The kids, a lot of children, I don't know where they came, surrounded us like this. And they start singing and dancing because I was holding her by the hand. It was like
romance.
Like something big thing.
They were serenading you.
And we were.
Because they didn't do that, right? Yes, because a very conservative society, especially in those times, that
really?
a man would not touch a woman, right?
Oh yeah, that was
unusual.
Unusual thing for them.
Oh really?
In India.
In India.
Not in the West.
Not in Iran either. So at that time.
And but we escaped that group and we came home and then she get hell.
She got
Not you. Not you.
Not me. Nobody told me nothing.
Who gave her hell?
The Bob culture.
No. Really?
It was ordered not to get out. How come we get out?
That's true.
And I was so happy that we went out because we got a lot of information.
It was nighttime?
It was kind of evening. We came back in the evening, but it was not nighttime.
Without any Indian escort?
No.
How did you negotiate?
I don't remember. She knew something. We should.
Well, this is the one who ran away at age 15 with the family passport in Europe. So she was a past master.
And nobody told me anything, but she get the girl. I don't know.
Romney, a question. How did you get your name Romney?
Well, that was Mommy's maiden name, Joyce Romney.
Oh.
And she didn't want to lose that name when she married my dad, Meyran. So she named me.
Lawrence Romney.
There's been some rumors that Romney is basically associated with a former candidate for the presidency.
Yeah, we're related.
Are you related?
Yes.
How?
George Romney, his father, and our grandfather's father were brothers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Romney there was a Lord Mayor of London. It's also in, I think in Australia, the Romney sheep. It's a brand of sheep, isn't it?
I've never heard of
The
it.
Romney sheep. And then there's the Romney Marsh in England, but she liked that name, and I like it because, Shireen, who I've met on Facebook, she called me Ram.
Shireen Davenport?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like it because it's Ram, in India, Ram, that's how they pronounce the name of holy name, Ram, R-A-M, they spell it different.
Is George Romney a Mormon?
Yeah, Mormon. Yeah, and I told you, Mommy excommunicated herself from that Mormon church at age 13.
Converts from Scotland.
And Denmark.
Oh, that's right. The Eccles were the Scottish.
Right, the Jensens were.
And she would talk about her brother. Was it? He was an attorney or something?
In Washington.
She didn't want to say who it was.
That was the uncle.
Uncle Quinn.
Oh, okay.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, they played piano together. They were, 2 years apart.
So,
Yes, Gigi.
the relatives, the grandparents that took care of you in Virginia,
Yeah.
they were Mormons.
Well, Gammy, she was a Jack Mormon. She would call herself a Jack Mormon.
What does that mean?
A Jack Mormon is someone that doesn't follow the laws because, at that time, she was very pro-civil rights, and at that time the Mormons were still saying that Cain killed his brother Abel, and therefore as a curse on Cain, God turned Cain black, and all blacks are descended from Cain, And I asked Margaret Kraft because, she loved detective stories, as did Baba, and Sherlock Holmes, one of his first ones is, I think, the Sign of Four. It's all about this Mormon thing. So I asked Margaret, she knew, and she said, what about Mormonism? She says, I'm not sure if it's a true religion. So that tells you,
While your whole family is this interspersed with artistic ability and talent. Richard, yourself, you're very articulate, and of course, Kenneth, and probably it comes through your mother and father. It's like
Joyce.
I mean, it's amazing. And you still practice hatha yoga, don't you?
No, ballet. As Brenner, our friend Brenner Mel, who was here at Mommy's services, and who Mommy met him at ballet class here in LA, and she had put God Speaks book on the in the entrance way, because it had just come out in '56. It was brand hot off the press, and Brenner saw it and became attracted to it. And Mommy said, "He just left." Who's this guy? You just missed him. She was quite.
So Brenner learned of MEHERABODE that way. I thought it was from Margaret Krask. I assume.
No, from Mom. Wow. Because he was, and he's unique in the sense that there was this friction between the Sufi group and the dancers. You know, Ivy Deuce's group of Sufis and Margaret Krask's dancers. There was a little friction there.
Which year was that?
Well, this would have been the 60s.
Okay.
The Sufis in Washington?
The mid-60s. No, well, by this time they were out in California.
Yeah.
Ivy Deuce's Sufis.
Oh, but
Sutter Street, thank you.
But Margaret Krask dancers?
In New York. In New York.
How did they, so far away, how did they have conflicts?
When they got together, you know, they got together at, you know, Ivy was here in Myrtle Beach. I mean, in Myrtle Beach, when Baba came, Ivy.
So 58, I guess. 58. You know.
Margaret and Ivy from the relationship in India?
No, Ivy came only in '48. She never was in India at that time. She wasn't a disciple, but Baba said she reorient Sufism. She came through Murshid Martin, so she had a different track. But you know, she had her group, and you know, it's like a little guru in a way, or I don't know.
Margaret?
No, Ivy. But it serves a purpose, but there were some friction. But Brenner was the one that was in both groups, because in '62 at the East-West Gathering, Brenner went in with the Sufis, and then if you read in Lord Mayor, he asked. People were asking Baba, like I did with Mommy, you know, what should I do with my life? And Baba would always turn the question on, what do you want to do? And Brenner said, I want to be a ballet dancer. So be a ballet dancer. So then when the Sufis went out and the dancers came in, Brenner came back in with the dancers. He said he was in both.
Oh, since Baba said be a ballet dancer, he tried the dancers.
He passed away a few months after Mommy, at a young age, It was that big plate of food that he ate. It was huge. I couldn't believe it. It's overflowing.
So was Joyce? She was an actress, wasn't she?
Well, yeah,
That's a story.
Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. She was enrolled.
She was a musician
in London.
And she studied from an early age, and then at age when they were over in Europe, our grandmother, our maternal grandmother, taking the family to Europe, as often was done with in certain circles for culture. So she takes the family over to Vienna and puts up the family there. Mother continues studying her music, and Gammy, by which time she had these ideas of reclaiming some of the long lost glory of the Eccles family. That's another discussion. So she thought that Joyce could be an actress, become an actress, and therefore claim the family's glory. So Mother tells me the story. She said, her mother said to her, now, you can continue studying your music, or you could study to become an actress. If you choose to study to become an actress, I will give you a custom wardrobe. So my mother didn't tell me, she says, what 15-year-old, when offered a custom wardrobe and the opportunity to please your mother, isn't going to say yes? So that then led to her being sent to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts.
Which she never actually attended.
She did.
I heard that she skipped it.
Well, she said she did it anyway. Yeah, I understand it. She actually did spend some time there.
Oh, sure.
And then ran off to find this Czech Hungarian officer that she met on board, I think when she was making passage from Europe to England, and he espoused love to her, and she thought, someone told her that there wasn't real love, and she said, I'm gonna go find real love, so she runs away to find if indeed this did represent real love.
This is Lottie.
Marries him, so.
This is
Anyway,
Lottie.
quite a lot of drama.
Yeah,
It's a little mini-series.
This is Lottie, right?
It sounds like a wonderful.
And just to put an end note,
So much drama.
Lottie's son has contacted Richard, he went
He
on.
saw the obituary that I put in for Mom, and we had the services here. One of Lottie then, mother got him out of Europe.
Hungary.
She goes to the assistant secretary of war, she tells the story and says, will you let me take this man out? And he says, ma'am, we're in wartime. We don't let our officers go at this time. She says, he is one man to you, he is the world to me. 16-year-old.
That was very blunt.
18 by that time. So she brings him back to the US. The family does not approve. She said, breaks up the marriage. He enlists in the American Army, gets back sent into action, breaks his back in the Battle of the Bulge.
Oh my God.
Comes back here, raises a family, 8 children.
Changed his name to,
Sinclair. Ziggity, it was Ziggity, Sinclair. This man contacts me. I think I know who your mother was. And we're now in contact. I'm sorry I didn't ask you to come.
Wow.
oh yeah.
Who contacted you?
One of the sons of Joyce's first husband.
And he goes by the name of Sinclair.
Yeah. He lives on the west side.
What a story.
Yeah.
Is Lottie still alive?
No, he passed away, I think.
And I want to ask, is Mitt Romney George's son?
Yes.
And Meyran?
Meyran? That's kind of vague. Grandpa was from Alsace-Lorraine, and it sounds Persian to me, but he never taught, he was an orphan. He was raised by a minister or something in France, and never liked to talk about the past at all. But he was a healer. He had he had his office in the house on the corner of Robertson and Olympic, and treated some of the. I was thinking some of the people that Baba, the movie stars that Baba saw in the 30s, were because Mommy said, "Who?" She see coming out of him, the great conductor. What's his name? Late Mizell or
Lauren
Mizell, and
is that you said that period?
Bruce, the actress Bruce, and Edward G. Robinson. Some of these same people that Baba contacted in the movie.
Wasn't there
You know what happened to him?
Oh, my grandpa? Yeah. he
Oh,
did.
or your father? Where's the name came from?
Oh, with the name? No, I don't know. But it's an unusual name. But I've seen it in Iranian.
Which name?
Meyran.
Oh, Meyran, yes.
Yeah.
I never know how to pronounce it.
So, what year was your mother?
Okay, yeah. But I got to meet your mom in '74 when Richard was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, and I was giving rides back and forth to Pasadena. And your mom impressed me with when she played the piano. I've never seen it before, but the piano would actually come up off the floor. I mean, it would bounce. She was
Well, that was
so
the E.
intense.
Robert Schmidt's technique, right?
It would. I said, that's incredible. I was standing there watching her play a piece, and it was actually coming up off the floor. Levitating the piano.
Can you play a piece now, Richard? That's a good section.